It had been a long week. My husband, Daniel, had just left town for a business conference in Chicago, and I was looking forward to a quiet weekend at home. I needed the space, if I was honest. Things between us had been tense for a while, not for any one reason I could pin down, but the sort of drifting that happens when two people stop truly talking to each other. I thought some time apart might help clear my head. That Friday afternoon, I poured myself a glass of iced tea and curled up on the living room sofa with a book I'd been trying to finish for weeks. The house was quiet except for the sound of the ceiling fan humming above me and the occasional chirp from the backyard birds. The last thing I expected was a knock at the door. I almost didn't hear it at first, but when it came again, 3 quick raps, I set down my book and walked barefoot across the hardwood floor to answer it. Standing there on the porch was Evan Carter, my husband's business partner. He looked more casual than usual, dressed in jeans and a gray tee, a ball cap pulled low over his eyes. I blinked in surprise. "Evan?" I asked, not even trying to hide the confusion in my voice. "Hey, Ashley," he said, giving me a smile. "Sorry to drop by unannounced. I tried calling Daniel, but I guess he's still on his flight. I left something important at the house after our meeting earlier this week. Mind if I come in and look for it real quick?" I hesitated for a moment. It wasn't that I didn't trust him. I'd known Evan for years, ever since Daniel started his business, but something about being alone in the house with him while Daniel was out of town felt off. Still, I pushed the door open and motioned for him to come in. "Sure," I said. "You know where his office is." He stepped inside and gave a brief nod. "Thanks, Ashley. Won't be long." I watched as he made his way down the hallway toward Daniel's office, then turned back to the kitchen, thinking maybe I'd pour another glass of tea. Minutes passed. I expected to hear the door to the office open and shut again, followed by footsteps back to the entryway, but nothing. The silence stretched too long. I walked down the hallway and gently knocked on the office door. "Everything okay?" I asked. Evan's voice was calm, but a bit distant. "Yeah, just going through some files. I think I left a USB drive." I nodded, though he couldn't see me. "All right. Let me know if you need anything." I returned to the living room, trying to focus again on my book, but my thoughts kept drifting. Something about Evan's tone felt strange. Not threatening exactly, but too casual. Too comfortable. About 15 minutes later, I heard footsteps approaching. I looked up to see him standing in the doorway, hands in his pockets. "Did you find it?" I asked. "Not yet," he replied. "But hey, mind if I ask you something?" I sat up straighter. "Sure," I said slowly. He walked closer, then leaned against the doorway with an air of familiarity that sent a small jolt of discomfort through me. "You and Daniel," he began. "You guys doing okay?" I frowned. "Why would you ask that?" He shrugged. "Just call it intuition. He's been distracted at work lately. I've been wondering if things are solid at home." I stared at him, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to shut the conversation down right there, but curiosity got the better of me. "We're fine," I said. "Just busy. Life stuff." Evan nodded, but the look in his eyes made it clear he didn't fully buy it. "You ever feel like he's not fully present anymore?" he asked. "Like his head's always in work, or somewhere else entirely?" "Everyone goes through phases," I replied. "You'd know, you work with him." He chuckled, then walked over and sat in the chair across from me. "True," he said. "But it's different at home, isn't it?" I didn't know where this was going, but I didn't like the turn it had taken. I stood up and smoothed out the hem of my shirt. "Look, Evan, if you're worried about Daniel, maybe just talk to him directly." He stood up too, suddenly, and his expression shifted, still calm, but there was a strange intensity behind it now. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he said. "I guess I just think you deserve someone who sees you. Really sees you." I took a step back. "Okay, I think you should go." There was a long pause. He looked at me for a beat too long, then nodded. "You're right," he said softly. "Sorry." That was out of line. He walked to the door and I followed behind him, keeping a careful distance. When he stepped outside, he turned once more. "If you ever want to talk," he said, "about anything, I'm around." Then he left. I shut the door and locked it. My heart was racing, but not because I was afraid, more because I was stunned. What had just happened? I tried to convince myself I'd misread the entire thing. Maybe he was just being overly friendly, and I was being paranoid. I told myself that for the rest of the night, but sleep didn't come easily. The next morning, I got a text from Daniel. He'd landed safely and was heading into back-to-back meetings. I didn't mention Evan. I wanted to, but I didn't even know how to bring it up. That afternoon, though, I got another surprise. Evan showed up again. This time, he didn't knock. I only noticed him when I saw his car in the driveway. I stood at the window and watched him walk up to the door. He rang the bell once and waited. I didn't answer it. I stood behind the curtain and watched until he eventually walked away. I waited another hour before texting Daniel. I told him Evan had dropped by yesterday and seemed a little too familiar, that something about his behavior made me uncomfortable. Daniel called me immediately. "What do you mean too familiar?" he asked, his voice tight. I gave him a watered-down version of the truth, not wanting to cause trouble, but needing him to understand my unease. Daniel didn't respond right away. "Thanks for telling me," he said finally. "I'll talk to him." "That's not okay." He sounded more angry than surprised, which only made me feel more unsettled. Later that night, Daniel called again. "I confronted Evan," he said. He denied everything, of course. Said you misread him. But I could tell something was off. There was a long silence. "I don't know if I can work with someone I don't trust around my wife," he added. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt guilty, like I'd driven a wedge into their partnership. But another part of me knew I'd done the right thing. Over the next few days, Daniel and I started talking more, really talking. The whole incident forced us to take a closer look at our relationship. It wasn't just Evan's behavior that had rattled me. It was the realization that I felt alone in my own marriage. We began having nightly phone calls, checking in not just about the logistics of life, but how we were both feeling. It was the first time in a long time that we felt connected again. When Daniel returned from his trip, we sat down together on the back porch, watching the sun dip behind the trees. "I'm sorry I haven't been fully here," he said. "I've been so focused on work, I didn't realize how much distance had grown between us." I nodded, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. "I missed us," I said. He reached for my hand. "Me too." A week later, Daniel ended his partnership with Evan. It wasn't a dramatic blow-up, just a professional parting of ways. He said it was time to move in a different direction. I never saw Evan again after that, and honestly, I was fine with that.